gallons of water that we can take from both the east and the west under this short-term permit. Last week, we also said if we needed to, we could extend that permit by one more round of 3 years. So according to this chart, we should see what looks like a little bit below 15 million gallons a day on the far right to a little bit, I'll call it 40, between 30 and 45. That should be in our supply by summer of 2026. That's going off of phase 1. That's that high volume but short amount of time. So fast forward on this chart. We're saying that we have now avoided curtailment all the way to summer, May of 2029. I'm saying this really clear because I know we have commercial customers, I know we have industry members that are in the audience here today, and I want to send that message that we are working hard because we're going to avoid curtailment and we are going to supply water. So according to this chart, we all agreed upon it. We all commended it. We've already pushed that curtailment. And that these are in hand starting summer 2026. Actually, before that. So I have I have a little bit of discrepancy here, and I can see that you're saying, you know, if we forego this phase 1, which is the larger volume, if we forego that for all of the infrastructure to run a full long-term maintained lower amount of water, that could take us longer to get online. That could maybe be that 2030 number that you were talking about. But according to all of this information, it's going to be here way sooner. What I'm getting at is by the time we're looking at October 28th, this green bar comes online. That's supposedly 30 million gallons a day for Inner Harbor. Presumably by this time, that top line, which is the dark blue, which is the Lake Corpus Christi, the western reservoir, that goes away. Our reliance on that, donezo. So if we cover effectively that 30 million gallons in those green bars, we're good.
You said it better than I did.
I apologize, it's 11 o'clock, it wasn't very political. But if I understand this whole graph, we're good. That's our goal. We have worked so hard to get to this great news, right?
You know, I'll tell you, you said it great. I mean, that's exactly what we're trying to show. And what we're trying to show is that it takes more than just one project to avoid curtailment.
But those other two are in hand. We just got to choose. What's that 30 million gallon piece? And like Mark Scott said, and Roland said, wow, did I just agree with Roland? If we plug in Evangeline, if we plug in South Texas Water Authority, if we plug one of those in while we're doing these other sources, we're doing okay.
I think the message that you just summarized is good. I think that the question that we have some disagreement on is the question on the timeline.
Well,
Because the timeline is where we're trying to figure it out. And I think one of the things that we've said is that we do the best we can with trying to speculate. One of the things that's hard is it's hard to speculate when you don't have permits. And so that's really the fundamental question. So if we have permits in hand, there's a lot more predictability in terms of what it looks like on the timeline. And but I applaud your ability to walk through that and really highlight what we were trying to show.
Well, Drew, I applaud all of your work because you've helped us get to this point, and I want to make sure that we really clearly articulate those efforts because they have gotten us here. You've worked really hard. You've gotten us permits very quickly. A member of our Senator Adam Yanos's office is here. I think a lot of people from the state down wants to work with us and make this possible. You spelled it out really nicely. Thank you, Drew. Councilman Campos.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, so it's funny that you just said about the permits because evidently we've been working without the permits all this time until what, August the 3rd, you know, we used $40–50 million of water rate money towards this project that we didn't even have know that, I'm listening to, Councilwoman Paxson about, back to that level, the 30 MGD from the harbor, from the Inner Harbor. But in reality, we can get there, using these other projects, especially, I would assume with just, we haven't even discussed the saving of the water that we do have in the reservoir. Because that's the other thing, I think we need to seal what we have, whatever little water we have, we need to protect it. And we're not doing that at all. I know you're gonna be gone, but I hope whoever, the staff is listening. But even, okay, so now it looks like things are changing here. But one of the other things is the Barfield model. I mean, oh my God, I can't believe we're still here. I thought we were gonna kill it, but okay, we're here. I think there's still a lot more done. We didn't speak, we haven't. We've been avoiding the ecological, the environmental impact. And it's something that we really do need to consider. So I know that we also received, at least John Weber, actually called and sent us the information about making sure that we get the Barfield model done? At this time now, at least that, can we get that done so that we can make sure that whatever is being promoted or recommended, that we actually have the science to back it up, because that has not been there. Can we get an independent Barfield model before we go any further? Is that even possible?
I think that would be a council decision to make. So we suspended all work on the Barfield model
Yeah.
and the report on July 29th. So if we're approved to continue, we're going to continue with the modeling of GHD, and we'll produce the report that we said we would, and we will share it with council when the report's complete.
Well, they're not sharing it, because we've been
We
asking.
don't have the reports yet, Councilwoman. And that was part of the plan, and that's what we had mentioned in July, is that we need to work on it, because we're not done with the modeling exercise. And when we finish that, we would produce a report, and we would bring it back to council. We would also work with an outside entity, and I believe we said we would let council weigh in on who that would be, so that we could share the report, make sure that everyone has an opportunity to see it.
Did we or did we not pay for that report already?
No, we haven't. We're still working through that. That's part of the phase 1B exercise.
That was, what, 2 months ago? That was July, we're in September.
Right, and we paused the work July 29th, and they were still working on the model.
I can't believe that. Okay, I'll leave it for now. I guess I have a third time to go.
Okay, Mayor, to answer your question, this is the recommendation, right? This is my opinion on this whole process. Obviously, $1.2 billion is too much, and it's always been the situation. We had struggled today with approving a rate that was 9 and 12% increases, and was voted down. Okay, so I can't imagine what the future council is going to be when rates have to double, okay, based on what this costs. There's a, to Victor's point, there's an actual practical cost, but then there's a political cost. And no one on council is going to want to say, yep, I'm going to double rates. I'm going to vote for it gladly. yard, double the cost. Okay? I'm not gonna limit the past, okay, but this is where we're at. Okay, so my thought on this is we're gonna stop this. End the contract with Kiewit, we're not gonna spend $1.2 billion. And then we're gonna ask Peter to bring us back some options, right? I know Councilman Bond had mentioned wanting to look at the second bidder, maybe the third bidder. I don't know. It's, to me, still a design, progressive design build, which is a terrible process to me. Okay, so then there's another option. I talked about CC polymers and using that money that we borrowed and moving it to a seawater desalination project that's in Inner Harbor already. We can work with the Texas Water Development Board. Maybe Victor can help us with it. Maybe we can hire College Rubenstein to help us with that process, the Texas Water Development Board. See if we can make some adjustments with that. Give us that option. Third option is if we really want to come back to this, if CC polymers doesn't work and this, the second bidder doesn't work, maybe we re-procure this as a P3 at like was recommended by Lyle Larson. Okay, now I prefer not to. I'm okay with CC polymers because it's already there. And it's already built. It's already going to be turned on whether we participate or not. Okay, but I'd rather have one desal plant instead of two. I don't like it in the bay. I've never liked it in the bay. I've always wanted it out on in the Gulf, or at least as close as possible as you could get to it. Okay, so give us some options. Don't give us a binary choice of yes or no. Give us some options of where we can go, what can we do. But it's not going to be $1.2 billion that we're going to put on the ratepayers that we can't afford. Thank you.
Councilperson, can I address some of your comments? So the letter from the Texas Water Development Board did address the CC polymers issue. The location of the Inner Harbor is cited by the permits. So, it's longitude and latitude. It's in the Region N plan and the state plan. So the CC polymers, the money can't be used for CC polymers. It's not at that specific site, and it's not in the plan. As far as the P3, I did some research. In 2013, the City Council adopted Chapter 2269 of the Government Code. 2267 is the P3 laws, and it requires the same type of process. In order for the city to enter into a P3 arrangement, we have to develop guidelines in accordance with Chapter 2267, and the City Council has to adopt that. Then we have to put together a procurement package for a request for proposers and go out for procurement, competitive procurement. And then that P3, and then of course that P3 operator has to abide by Chapter 2269, the design build. So it's a design build process just like we are doing, but the private entity is managing that instead of our competent city staff. The other thing is, but I did do some other research on the use of the SWIFT funds that we already have in escrow as a P3. So the process for the P3, it's going to be a couple of years, so it's going to delay the project. But we could do some self-performance of parts of the project that we could design and build ourselves, like maybe the product pipeline to navigation. We can use the money for the SWIFT funds for that. It cannot be used for the P3 process though, because it's public financing. I think that's right. The other thing is, I know you aren't satisfied with the design build blank check. City Council has the option at this point to negotiate the GMP. We don't have to wait for the 60% if that's what you don't want to do. You can get a guaranteed price, and move forward with the design build at that price, whatever you want to negotiate. Instead of going to a number 2, which is an unknown entity at this point, unknown quantity, you can negotiate with the person that we have and get a guaranteed price
breaks. Well, yeah, I wrote it down because I knew that it was me late and I forget, but I want to compliment you, Mayor, because it's been very difficult to control the crowd. And you've done a very good job the last month you have. And I don't ever like the police criticized. I thank you for being here. And I know that they're passionate and I get it, but there has to be order and I think you guys did a great job. I do. Okay, everyone sitting here knows that we need water. We need it now, we need it in the future, and it needs to be affordable and come from diversified sources. I'm not gonna read it all, but I got a call, and this was very frustrating for me, because this has become so political and so divisive. It was very sad today to see what happened. I hate that we're like this, and we need to work together. But I got a call last Friday at 5 o'clock from Robert Black, the governor's chief of staff. He told me I should be a leader and vote yes on desal. And then he said that if I didn't, Corpus Christi would receive no future state funding. That's wrong. I consider that a threat to the people of Corpus Christi. How would he react if the federal government called and told him how to vote? No matter who holds office, Republican or Democrat, no one has the right to abuse their influence by intimidating a city council member into voting a certain way. He called the wrong girl. Question to me is, did the governor know the chief of staff did this? I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, because sometimes employees do things on their own, but in the end, he represents the governor. This tells me they don't care if the citizens pay for this, even though we know it's for industry, and I support industry. And industry that's sitting in the wings, that's what it's going to support. Waiting to sign up if we approve the desal, and we do want industry. Does industry or the state want to contribute? The answer is no. So who does that leave the bill with? We know who it does. The more industry we get, the more water we're going to have to get. We're going to be in the same situation 2 years from now. The state could easily give a grant for the remainder of the cost. They just bought some hotel the other day, and if you really want us to have water and you want this desal, then you should divvy up and give us a grant. We've also received pressure from Senator Chuy Hinojosa, who sent letters to council members urging support for this specific project. It's clear that some elected leaders want a ribbon cutting and a plaque with their name on it more than they want affordable water for our citizens. Leadership is not about bowing to pressure. Leadership is about serving the people with honesty, humility, and stewardship. We got another letter from Don Buckingham. Wonder why. Scare tactics coming from industry warn us that we will be forced into curtailment without voting yes if we don't vote yes in Inner Harbor. If approved, Inner Harbor would not produce water until December 28, 29, and 30. We don't know. And it would be too late to help with the projected shortage in December 26. It should be very clear to the public that the Inner Harbor is not a drought solution for today, and that the Inner Harbor truthfully doesn't get anyone closer to being able to water their lawns. You're not going to be able to water your lawns. Being honest with the public is very important. We didn't do that. This was done wrong. We should have had public input. I think they should have got to vote on it. Another concern is projected annual expenses. Operation and maintenance alone estimated are $32 million a year. Other desal plants the city toured were offline for maintenance. That raises even more questions about how much water this plant would truly deliver and what it would truly cost every year moving forward, especially when it's offline. It's not wrong to stop a project when costs have spiraled out of control. It's not wrong to say no when the risks outweigh the rewards. What would be wrong is to push forward blindly, not knowing how we're going to pay for it, and leaving our citizens to carry the burden for decades. In closing, real leadership requires making tough decisions regardless of the political pressure, egos, and information, and everyone getting mad at you. $1.2 billion is simply too high of a cost. Unless that number comes down, we must choose options that are more affordable for the ratepayers of Corpus Christi and our surrounding areas. It's not my intent to abandon the project. I like the possibility of desal, but let's look at another vendor and let's try and find a cheaper cost if we can. And if we can't, we did everything that we could to try. And there are plenty of other options. We haven't even talked about wastewater reuse, produced water that Commissioner Jim Wright brought to us, not Commissioner, it's Texas Railroad Commissioner. Jim Wright brought to us, no one's talked about. We've got so many options that we just haven't looked at. And it's a shame because the citizens did not need to be scared. I had a lady call me today. Her grandson's in critical condition and what she was worried about. Am I going to have water? They're telling me I'm not going to have water. That made me so mad because the city is responsible for that. They scared the public and others scared the public by the tactics that they did. Shame on you for doing doing it. Thank you. Councilman Roy.
Yeah, I just want to go back and, to my earlier comment. You know, one of the things that being on this council and talking and attending the presentations that we got that talked about the process and how this process, as it moved along, was supposed to be defined better until we got to the guaranteed maximum price. And so, but that's an indicator that I asked staff, I asked Freeze and Nichols, and I asked the city manager today. I said, what about the, 1.2 billion? No, we haven't heard that. But my other council members here, I've got 3 council members that succinctly heard that and were told that the minimum it's going to be is 1.2 billion. So that's a tough thing to deal with, because all along I kept thinking I've got to put my faith in the process, but it's clear that that process is not right, that process is broken, because I've got 3 council members that have had direct conversations saying that we're going to be at 1.2 billion. But the other thing I want to talk about is that earlier you mentioned that if we come up with an alternative, if let's just say, and again, I'm very disappointed with not Freeze and Nichols, but Hewitt not being here, because I think they could have answered these questions directly. And I think city staff should have encouraged them to be here. I think this is so important. We've waited so long, the public's waited so long to be able to gather these facts and talk about this. We put this off for a month. And what I don't like about the process is that they basically could sit there, and time is important. We all know that nothing becomes cheaper with time. It gets more expensive. So we go through this 10%, then we go to the 30, and we go to the 60. But as we're going down this timeline, if they're stuck and their heels are dug in at 1.2 billion, right, then all we're doing, if we continue to go on, is we're just making it worse. We're just actually sitting there, putting ourselves in a situation where it's not going to get any better. And so one of the things that you said earlier is that if we decide that we want to go with the second bidder, or we want to just have Hewitt go to 60%, and then once they go to 60%, we can choose another company, we can choose another method, or whatever the case is. You said they would have to turn over everything so that we wouldn't lose time.
No, you would still lose time. They have to turn over all the deliverables that they've produced.
But like 3 months. At first you said like 3 months, and then you came back and said we lose a year.
No, there were 3 to 4 months to procure the new vendor, the number 2 company. It'll take 3 to 4 months just to do that. And then once they start the work, they have to start with phase 1A again, and then they'll work into phase 1B. So that entire timeline.
They can't go off of the documents and the information that.
Therefore, it would be highly unlikely that a new engineering firm will just accept the work product of another engineering firm and go build it. So they're going to want to go back and review it, validate it. Not to mention, they're coming in with a brand new process technology company. They're going to want to make sure that the basis of design report matches their technology, their processes. So they're going to want to go back and redo that. They're going to want to develop a new pilot protocol that matches their equipment. They're going to want to do new scheduling, new
possibility at the end that we can still get 1.2.
That's right. So we would have those sunk costs from what we've spent today added on top of what number 2 is coming in.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
And Councilman, just, all last week, Councilman, this weekend, we did work, we did ask Hewitt to be here. I personally communicated with them. I asked Brett to do it all last week, and Drew did as well, but we couldn't convince him to. We tried.
Thank you, Mayor. I think if we continue with desal and other water projects, we need the refinery to come up and sign contracts. I don't understand why we're gonna be investing all this money if they don't have a contract with the city of Corpus Christi. And we need to work on that as soon as possible, because we need to find water if this project doesn't pass tonight. You said that it's gonna take 5 years to get this completed, if it's passed? December of 29, somebody said that.
No, so the project was expected to be done in around August of 28 originally.
August 28th.
And then with this new delay, we're looking at the end of 28, so closer to December, January, maybe January of 29. So we had a 3-month fix.
And there's no way to bid this out with a guaranteed price, like a regular bid?
There's not a design, so all we have are design criteria and we have the permit. So our design criteria is based on the permit. We know the site of the desal, we know where the intake and discharge are gonna be, we know where the product water is going. That's the basis of design, and so we don't have a full design of how all that pipeline is done. So there is no design to bid out.
You know, I never thought that, I was so excited to win the election, let me tell you. But I never thought that I would be in this position to make a $1.2 billion decision. Not just that, I think this is probably the biggest vote in my political career. I have a lot of role models. I got 3 I could think of. One was my uncle. He passed away about 4 years ago. He was a Pepper County Commissioner for Kingsville, Texas. He was there for 42 years. You either loved him or you hated him. And he wasn't your typical politician, like we have a lot of career politicians in Corpus Christi who self-serve themselves. He was serving the people. I always saw him serving the people, and he loved what he did. And then you have my aunt, by marriage, Councilwoman Judge Lucy Rubio, and Karen Vaughn, who they were together in council, and they were really for the people. And I loved it. It was awesome to see that. And you know, my grandmother means a lot to me. She helped me throughout my years and stuff. And when I won my election, she was the first person I called. And this next day in the morning, I went to go see her, and she was very proud, and she said, make sure you represent the people and you do what's right for the people. And she prayed over me. And I'm going to, those prayers cling to me every day. You know, I'm going to make a lot of decisions today, 2 decisions. And I'm sure I'm going to make some people mad on one side, and I'll make some people happy on the other side. But I'm going to vote what I think is right. $1.2 billion is a lot of money on the ratepayers. It's a lot. Hewitt told me Friday it's 1.2 billion. At 60%, probably more. 1.5? Who knows? But still a lot of money. And we don't have the extra money to finish the project. And the water board made it very clear, you know, they're not going to give out any more money right now. And where are we going to get the money from? That's my problem. That's my issue right now with it. And frankly, this project has gone so political, so nasty, threats. I mean, it's just unbelievable. But, you know, I'm ready for my next election. I'm sure they're gonna come after me, and I'm starting to stack in my money right now, because I'm not just spending a lot of money in my campaign, but, you know, it is what it is, and it comes with a job. And I just wish that this project, it was different. I think it's too many people in the cookie jar. Not you guys, but other people, and people got greedy. And that's just the truth. There's a lot of people involved who's gonna make money off this deal. It's not right. Thank you.
So, it sounds like everybody up here wants, well, maybe not everybody. But our poor desalination, and let's be clear. We have an immediate need. I'm calling desalination short-term, which is 3 years or so from now. And then we have the long-term. So no one is saying desalination is for today. I mean, everybody's smarter than that. It takes years to build. So if we stayed on track, desalination is for 2028, 2029, whatever, fall, summer, what have you. The immediate need, we have a deficit in the immediate need. We've done a great job, a stellar job. Talk about being innovative. We bring on wells. We improved the Mary Rose pipeline last year so that we can, I mean, you know, we reap the benefits really today. You know, we're looking at eastern, western wells, but we need more. We still need more. So, transparency, it's out there. We need more immediate water. Desalination is over here. We're here. The long term, 8 to 10 years, the big 500 million, 100 million, whatever, desalination plant, that's way out there. 8 to 10 years, right, if that happens. But I think we're all in agreement, for the majority of this council, that we're for desal. We've invested in desal. And so really, it's a position that's difficult because we've invested. My priority, we can change, we can do whatever we want. I don't want to put $50 million in a toilet bowl, flush it down, and then ask you to pay for it. $8 a month for nothing. So we've got to keep, to me, we've got to keep that in mind. And so why couldn't we accomplish what sounds like what everybody wants, which is we don't want a $1.2 billion plan, but we've already invested in this particular contractor. So why burn 50 million? So let's move forward knowing someone's going to move forward with the design. I mean, that's agreed upon. We've talked about that. We're either going to move forward with design with the company we've already invested $50 million with, or we're going to flush that down the toilet, and we're all going to pay it, and then we're going to pay it, you're going to pay it, $8 a month, and then we're going to add more to that. We're going to add more to that, because we're going to start over. So there's another cost involved, so why would we do that? So why wouldn't we just go forward knowing at some point 30, 40, 50, 60% design, if we don't like the cost, we RFP it out. I don't want to flush your tax dollars down the drain. It just doesn't make sense. It makes no sense. I'm sorry, I'm not asking y'all a question, please, please. So to me, I just think that resolving what everybody wants without throwing $50 million away would be to stay where we are, and we will look at it and move, we can go another direction. I mean, okay, you want to burn $50 million?
You want to burn 1.2 billion.
No, you're not, okay, stop. So, sir, you're breaking decorum, and I'm gonna ask you, that's it, that's the first, so you're warned. So
me tell you what I don't know, 70% of you may not like this. I think Inner Harbor, is the right project. I think the good news is, it wasn't 2 weeks ago, everybody was saying it's gonna be $2 billion. Well, I mean, maybe if there's a silver lining, it's that, he would have said, no, we think it's $1.2 billion. Now, I will tell you, Everett, just so we're clear, they didn't tell me $1.2 billion. They told me, we think it's $1.2 billion, maybe a little up, maybe a little down. So I wanna make sure that's, but I guess the good news is now we feel comfortable it's not gonna be $1.5 billion. Would you walk me through, Drew, when, months ago, you said, hey, when we did Mary Roads 1, it had a 25% increase in the ratepayer, right? And then Mary Roads 2.
Right, so, one of the assignments that I gave to the team here was to go back and do a little forensic evaluation on transformational projects that the city has undertaken over the last 25 years. And the two that come to mind are the Mary Roads Phase 1 and Phase 2. And so, when our team looked at the costs associated to the ratepayer for those two projects independently, generally speaking, those two projects, Mary Roads Phase 1 was about a 25% increase to the ratepayer, and Mary Roads Phase 2 was about a 25% increase to the ratepayer. And I found that fairly interesting because, we are talking about a rate impact to the customer of about the same magnitude. Now, there are other costs.
Oh, yeah, I get
Right.
it. There were other costs in.
Correct.
There were other costs in both times.
Right.
But from a project perspective, it's 25% rate increase in Mary Roads 1, 25% increase in Mary Roads 2, and the $11 a month would be basically 25, I guess maybe high as 30% rate increase.
Correct.
So it's not in the realm, it's not outside the past. I can't count to $1.2 billion, so I don't want anybody to think that I'm being flippant about $1.2 billion. But what concerns me is, and Victor, can you come up here? Let me just fix. So, if we don't do Inner Harbor, we're gonna strand $130 million. Now, that's not total, because we're earning interest. But if we don't spend it in a certain amount of time, then we become taxable.
Yes.
So you make it 2%, maybe you make it 3%, but if it's a 1% hit you on the tax side, then you've lost it off the top. So it's still a lot of money.
Yeah, so that's what we cannot calculate at this point because this is uncharted territory in terms that you borrowed a significant amount of money. I talked earlier about tax exempt bonds being regulated by the IRS. One of their rules is that they want you to spend the money in a reasonable amount of time, and to them that's within a 3-year period where you're spending most of it. Of course, delays happen for whatever reason or another, but that is when you get into a situation where you don't want to be negotiating with the IRS. One of the risks is that they convert this tax exempt bond to taxable. The complexity with respect to this financing is that this financing, we didn't go directly to the bondholders that are holding it. We're going to the Texas Water Development Board. So that's another bureaucracy that we have to visit with about how, what happens if we, I guess, damage the Texas Water Development Board's 2024 financing that we currently have in possession of. So that I can't answer, but the bond attorney is here, but there could be federal tax implications and possibly state implications, but I just don't know what that is because this is uncharted territory.
Well, I do think it's bad public policy to not fulfill a debt obligation to the Texas Water Development Board. I think generally the rate impact would be about $8 a month for 10 years for nothing. So I'm compelled, and we weren't here when we started all this, but we're here now. And I think it's big. You're right. It's the biggest decision we probably made. But I don't want to walk away from that $230 million debt obligation. I just think that's bad public policy, and I don't want to saddle the ratepayer. And incidentally, Drew, is that rate obligation is paid by the whole system if we don't do Inner Harbor?
Right.
Or just
So that $8
size
a month calculation worked with our financial office, but it was based on the $40 million side city limit customers would be burdened with that penalty, if you will, over 10 years.
And our industry on a contract, is the contract with the South Texas Water Authority, or, I mean, is it take or pay with South Texas Water Authority, or no?
No, South Texas Water Authority is not a take or pay contract.
Right, but their customers, industry.
Yes, South Texas Water Authority.
I think these are from the Sandpad Water Authority.
Oh,
Right.
I'm so sorry, Sandpad Water.
Yes,
Yeah,
Sandpad
that's
Water.
what we-
Sandpad has take or pay contracts with their customers. And actually, South Texas Water Authority does as well. Yes, sir.
So, I mean, I think there are some take or pay contracts embedded in there, they're just through our partners. All right, here's my thought. One of my favorite poems ends with, the end of our journey will to arrive at the place we started and to know it for the first time. T.S. Eliot poem. I think we spent a lot of energy, but we've learned a lot, right? I know more today than I did when we paused. But I do think it's not popular with everybody. I know it's expensive, but it's drought-proof. It provides a second treatment facility. Hewitt is a U.S.-owned entity with a local presence. I think they're employee-owned. I think there are lots of eyes looking over their shoulders, including the city of Corpus Christi, Reese Nichols, ICE, and hopefully industry if we do move forward. I think the project is fully vetted. I think it's fully permitted. I do think a lot of citizens support it. I'm certainly not the majority of people in this room. I do think it creates the greatest certainty to a long-term, reliable, drought-proof water supply. If it were me, I would move forward to 60. I would work with the Texas Water Development Board. I would reach out to our U.S. Congressman, and I would talk about the IDA. And I'd like to stop there. Can we have a quick conversation about the IDA? So, and I think some of these people have talked about this, but we have significant industrial district agreements coming on in 2033, and I could you kind of walk us through that, how much money we're talking about.
Sure. So we've got 3 different industries that will be coming online in 2032. Starting, it is Cheniere, Gulf Coast Ventures, and Acceler Middle, which was formerly Voestalpine. And so the city did enter into 380 agreements with them back in 2015, 16, 17 in there. That was for them to go ahead and build out their facilities. And then in exchange for that investment, the city then said that entered into an agreement that they would not start paying any type of pilot until fiscal year 2032. And then they would need to enter into industrial purchase agreement, I think, by 2035. So with that, based off of estimated values of what investment has already happened and what we feel like the investment is with depreciation and things along that line, starting in 2032, we can expect to receive an additional $20 million in the pilot payments, moving up to almost $40 million in 2033, and then reaching about $58 million in 2034. So those could vacillate just a little bit, just depending on what their total investment is by that point in time. But it is significant money that would be coming into the system, into the city, actually. And then those maintain about between $40 million a year ongoing. Those our current IDAs would end in 2040. And then assuming any type of renewal on those industrial district agreements, that could take
some things that are being said is the region in plan. My understanding from my discussions with some folks in Austin is it's not impossible to add things to the region in plan. It may take a little bit of time, a couple months, but it's not impossible. And so I don't know why, if we don't have a very good comparable project, that we couldn't pursue adding them to that plan. I think that's something that we consider when we look at what the options are, like Councilwoman Vaughn and Councilman Hernandez have discussed. Councilwoman Vaughn discussed a phone call she got on Friday. My understanding is there was a meeting at the Capitol on Monday. Certain council members, actually I think only one council member and our mayor, our county judge, some state representatives, and senators were invited to go visit the governor's office. I wasn't there. I can, only tell to what I was told. I don't know how that conversation went exactly. We had a meeting on Tuesday. My understanding is certain members stayed in Austin. Now fast forward, this phone call's placed on Friday, and we get this Texas Development Board letter. I do not want anyone from a leadership position here to make a decision for our city based on feeling like we're being told that we are not going to receive any further support from the state. I don't like that narrative. I've said it from early on. We need to make the best decisions for this city based on the best information here. And I don't know, to Councilwoman Vaughn's point, I don't know if that phone call was made aware, because sometimes your staff does take a certain perspective. So I don't know, but I certainly hope that that was not a directed phone call, because we have a big responsibility here. And if we're not being given equal support, I just simply can't get behind the thought that we would be told a direction to go when it's our responsibility to care for this city. And we do. We play a very large leadership role for the state and the country. And the state is, in fact, very interested in our success. They should be. But that's where they should come in and partner. That's my perspective on it. I mean, I think it's interesting. It's a funny note. 1773, we were talking about things in the harbor. We didn't want to be charged for it without having a say. And we're back to things in the harbor, still asking to be charged for it without a say. It's an old thing for us, so I'm sorry. It's midnight. I wanted to lighten the mood a little bit. I have one more time. I'll come back. All right, Brett, thank you. That's all the comments we have right now. We're good. Okay, go ahead and ask for public comment on item number 34. Who would like to come up? Come on. Yeah, Reverend Williams, I think you already spoke on, or did you speak on this one?
He did not speak on desal. He just,
Rebecca?
No, I did not speak.
No, when I spoke earlier, my name is Henry Williams, District 1, Hillcrest resident. I feel that in Harbor Desal, it's wrong. It's wrong for our neighborhood, it's wrong for our city. It's wrong for our area. A change needs to be made. You've heard the voices of the people. You've heard the sentiments of the citizens. I think that you should allow what you have heard to speak to you. mistake if you vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Williams.
Good late night, council, Assembly Under Fryer, District 4. You know, there's been a lot of debate and ongoing talk about different things, especially the Inner Harbor, talking about a reliable and uninterrupted water supply. In the military, there's a phrase when you have a helicopter that's pulling something underneath it, and it's called cut swing mode. And that's whenever there is safety to the crew or to the damage to the aircraft. So in this Inner Harbor desalinization, I say cut swing mode. You talk about capital expenses, interest, talk about the number in the range. You talk about we'll still be in stage 3, even if the Inner Harbor is online. The debt is the largest expense in the water department. In Corpus Christi, we want to treat it as a lab rat. So Texas, if I understand, has over 50 municipal desalinization facilities with a combined production capacity of 157 million gallons. Now the major source is brackish groundwater. That's the majority of the source for that water. Now the Inner Harbor, they're saying maybe up to 30 million gallons, but yes, a day, but that's only 20 to 25% of the demand, if I understand it correctly. I'm going to give you an analogy, the gold digger. And it is based on what the mayor answered the mayor's question about should we just burn 50 million. Well, let's suppose you're a man and you have this woman that's very beautiful, you want to marry her. You have everyone that's wanting to say to you, this is the right person for you. You've had businesses that's given all kinds of money for the wedding. You had high-level dignitaries that are supporting it, everything as well, only to find out later she's a gold digger. And your legacy will be destroyed. You will not meet your expectation as a married couple. The question would be, what would a wise man do? If I was that man, I would drop her like a bad habit. Now, I appreciate the council who have done so many things and been ostracized for going out of their way, writing a letter to the Texas Water Development Board and things like that, being called, you don't trust the staff. Well, I remember in particular in the military, a general officer said, always question assumptions of your staff and your hire. As a city council, you are elected in this constitutional republic to vote the will of the people. Now, I'm not a polygamist and I wouldn't be, my wife wouldn't put up with it, but for water polygamy, I think it's a good idea to leave all these things on the table, exception of the Inner Harbor. So if you recuse yourself, you have a vested interest in this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, it's not quite yesterday when I last talked to you. David Loeb, District 2. A month ago, you paused this project in order to look at alternatives and get answers to your questions. Now we know the following. One, you cannot move the state loans to another project, and there are dire consequences, financial and otherwise, for trying to scrap the project now. Two, the cost of the alternatives and timeline as analyzed by engineers are much higher than the numbers salesmen sold them on. Not a shock, but you know, that's what happened. Three, because of those two, Inner Harbor is the least expensive option for ICL ratepayers. Four, our OCL ratepayers are in favor of Inner Harbor because we've also learned it's the fastest and safest option. Five, you have received offers from both the state and industry to help reduce the cost of Inner Harbor through further low interest or no interest financing and technical assistance if you move forward. You should take those offers and vote yes to go with 60% design on Inner Harbor. If you don't like the guaranteed maximum price, go ahead and bid it out. That opens the ability to get a real hard price. As that is happening, continue working on honing the rate model and getting grants and financing. There are legal ways to financially reward those who have heeded the call to conserve, or to cushion the blow for those who can't afford to pay more on their water bill. Use them. You can use them. Your staff Staff provided an excellent presentation last week that had an achievable and affordable roadmap to a water supply system that for the first time in our history would not rely on rainfall in the Oasis River watershed. It's visionary. It also would not rely on you privatizing our water supply. We would not be beholden to either rain or a private company to live our lives. You as our elected representatives would retain control of our water supply. You have state-financed, industry-subsidized, publicly owned, fully permitted project ready to move forward while our community is staring into the catastrophe that is curtailment. You have an independent cost estimator that reduced the cost of the pilot plant by 40%. Let them go to work on the main plant. You have money from the state and permits to drill wells to hold off curtailment until Inner Harbor is online if you move forward with haste. And please move forward with haste. Ask for alternatives to accelerate the project timeline. You may want them when the time comes, and you may have a partner who wants to pay for it. You have partners who are willing to stand in the light of day and state their support for Inner Harbor. You don't have that on the other projects. Not because they trust you or your staff or the project team, but because they have looked at the deal themselves, the situation the community is in, and the alternatives, and decided it really is the best course of action. It's why there are 400 more yard signs up in support of the project than 2 weeks ago. This project has a movement. Vote yes and lead it. We will be here to support you and make the project successful. That's what partners do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Eric Conway, District 2, which I think has been very well represented here today. I just want to say thank you to everybody who's come down and spoke today. It's been respectful of council because, again, if we have this sort of support, I think we can all agree it's a better place if we're involved. So, and tribute to our homies on cell block 6 upstairs. We got 6th Street in Austin. We got the 6th floor here. They have the best food and a lot of great people. But I say this, we're at a point in time where we need everything. We need all the water. And water's going to get more expensive. I'm sorry, not too loud. Water's going to get more expensive no matter what we do. If we don't do it now, water's going to be more expensive tomorrow than it was yesterday. That doesn't mean we go for everything. And I would say I am a bit disappointed that we didn't have better representation from Kiewit here today. If it was my project, I would be here. But I will say this. Before we throw everything away, we need to make sure that we're all willing to face the consequences. I've fought too long in this very short life I've spent here in this city. I was born here, and I've seen council work together to do amazing things. And I still think that we can all do that. I know there's a lot of differences. I blame that because we didn't have a retreat. I'll plan a retreat for you. We'll do the 6th floor. We already got a good party going up there. But from everybody here, you conducted yourselves as professionals. You've appeared to be sharp, and you deserve our respect. And I say this for everyone. It all starts with ourselves. I'm not going to act in a way that disrespects you because there's children. There's people here besides just the rest of you, and it's my city, not just whoever holds the office. And so I hope that in the future, if we can curtail our emotions, we can then look more logically at things. That means not giving in to the impulse or not making excuses for bad behavior, because when you make one excuse, it becomes a snowball, and I think that's something we're all looking at. Everybody has made a point that's correct here. We are looking at needing Evangeline, but we've been looking at that for 20 years. If we let go of the one thing we do control, what kind of negotiation power do you think we'll have with people who know they're the next best option? We're looking at 2 cars, 2 dealerships, and now one goes out of business. I guarantee you the water that's more expensive than it was 10 years ago from Evangeline, and 10 years before that is going to be more expensive tomorrow. We need to keep our leverage, we need to keep our strength, and we need to make sure that we find a unified front. Whatever it takes, I suggest this. At the end of every council, just like when they teach you in 3rd grade soccer, you get up and you say good game to everybody as you pass, I think it would be a good example for council to do that, shake hands before you leave. It seems small, but those little things set a good example. And I hope everybody here can agree that whether we agree with each other or not, we care about this city, and I believe everybody's here to do the right thing. And I want to commend all of you for doing that. I have never stayed up this late for somebody that didn't have alcohol and a dancing ability. So I want you to know this is the first. I hope it doesn't have to be a repeated thing, but maybe 2 council meetings. The second case might be a good thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Georgia Tony. I'm District 4, and I've sat here for 12 hours, and everything I was going to say previously changed 3 South Carolina on the coast. Rain all the time, it's very green. I hope you all agree, we do not live in a green environment here in Corpus. And I also used to work in facilities contracting. What previous gentleman said, now that these bidders know that 1.2 billion is out there, do you think any of them seriously are gonna come up with something less? Let me tell you, you're pipe dream. And I'd be curious to find out if the other two bidders are actually still gonna want to bid on it. With all the controversy, perhaps that's why Kiewit didn't want to come today. They wanted to stay out of it and let politics go through. I've not heard any other opposing realistic solutions other than groundwater. I personally don't feel like that's a permanent solution. We only have so much groundwater. Texas doesn't have adequate aquifers. Our upstream sources are worse shape than we are. That's not going to change. I really seriously don't think in the future we're going to have a more optimistic water supply issue. So y'all can kick the can down the road, which y'all have done for many, many years, and many of y'all have been on this council and have done that. I think it's time to take some leadership and do what the city needs. And I vote for y'all approving this.
Becky Moeller, District 4. It's been said a few times today that this has made some strange friendships. And I just have to say, if anyone ever thought I would read Samuel Fry, never. But I wrote jokingly a minute ago, I'll make my public comment very, very brief. This discussion reminds me of my marriage number 3. It's a mistake. Seriously though, well, I've never had it gold. That's why I'm still here. I arrived early tonight and this afternoon, right after the library board meeting, and there was no agenda out there, so I had signed up to speak on the topic. And then kind of got confused, so thank you for letting me do it those times. I do appreciate that. I've spoken in the past on environmental issues, on some of the science that I can repeat. But I'm going to repeat some of the other comments that are more family oriented, and that's where I am today. And I'm a labor rep, a long-time labor rep, and worked in Austin for a number of years and lobbied the legislature. So jobs are important to me. But you know what? All jobs are important. The refinery jobs are great. I have a nephew that works at one. I had a brother-in-law who worked in, actually I think they killed him at that particular refinery. He ended up with brain cancer, but that's another story. But so are the waitress jobs on North Beach. So are the hotel jobs on North Beach. We just gave a hotel, what, $400,000 to remodel, to make it a Las Vegas-like thing. Who is going to want to stay there when your kids swim in the brine that we've already talked about that's going to be released over there? Who is going to go and want to eat across the street from the DoubleTree at the restaurant with shrimp and fish that was caught from that brine? Do you really want to take your grandkids there and feed them that stuff? We already know what the refineries put out. You're not going to drink it. Oh, no, I guess we are. If you want the refinery, you'll be drinking it. But seriously, we need to look at the economics of this. $50 million is a lot of money. I never thought I'd be talking about $50 million. Sometimes you have to say, I screwed up, and now I vote no on this. I encourage you, let's take our losses. We've all done that in our personal life before. We've made bad decisions financially and we paid for it. This is another bad decision. We need to pay for it and move on. I'm a desal person out of the Inner Harbor. You take it out on the pipeline. We just heard today that, hey, we're going to have to do some pipe work we didn't even know about before. So this has not been well thought out. Vote no to proceed. Take your losses. Let's pay the $50 million and go on about our business. Thank you.
Thank you.
First of all, this will absolutely kill our Corpus Christi Bay and Oasis Bay and all of the natural beauty and resources that come along with it. Secondly, I am concerned about the cost the working class people of Corpus Christi will have to bear, all for water that isn't even theirs. I truly can't even comprehend over $1.2 billion. It's not fair that you have already thrown community members' dollars down the drain when they did not ask for it. If Desal moves forward, it will be even more. Y'all were the ones that made the $50 million mistake, not us. Don't pretend to speak on our behalf. We don't want Desal. I'm also standing here in solidarity today with the Hillcrest community, who is bearing the brunt of being cut off from the rest of the city, from the highway, the miles of oil and gas facilities, the port, and now the bridge. And now I want to put this facility in the so-called buffer zone. I also overheard that one of the council members during the break said that half the comments he heard today were, and I quote, full of S-H-I-T. First of all, the double standard of our friends who have been fighting against Desal for 10 years and are rightfully mad, getting arrested for words like that is insane. Secondly, do you not have a heart? Are you not feeling moved by the love and the passion of the community members here today? Today was my second city council meeting and second time making a public comment. And I feel so honored to have met and talked with so many people who would unfortunately be bearing the brunt of this Desal disaster. Please vote no.
I'd like to say thank you to all of our council members for staying out this late. It's been quite a debacle. Just to keep it short and sweet, I'd like to
Can you state your
reference
name and city, please?
Julius and District 5. I'd like to reference what Councilman Eric Cantu said earlier about
State your full name, sorry.
Julius Ramirez. Sorry. I'd like to reference what you had brought up earlier about the hypothetical have this done by Friday situation, where we're still going to be under a stage 3 restriction. It seems to me that it's kind of obvious that the companies that are around us, especially Hewitt, who decided not to show up when this is a crucial time to show, they decided that this wasn't important enough to be here for. And I think you really answered a good question for that as well. We're still going to be paying all of this money. It's an embarrassment for Hewitt to not be showing up. We've heard numbers over and over, and yet nothing seems to really add up. What we, the people of Corpus Christi, know is that best case scenario, we're going to be paying $1.2 billion to be destroying a community, Hillcrest community. It's insane to me. It's a beloved place that we have all brought here today, members of their community, in solidarity to talk about how important the memories are behind this Hillcrest community. It not only is going to be a lot of money that we're going to be paying off, but as we stated before, the $50 million, that wasn't a decision that was made by us. The money that we're going to have to pay is going to be there no matter what. Where regardless of whether or not we have to pay the $50 million back in whatever taxes or the water bill, we still are going to be paying more with the new bill if we do go through with the desalination plan. And like they said before, it's going to continue. It's going to be an annual expense that just increases and increases. We all know it's not going to be $1.2 billion. It's going to continue to go up. But I would like to just say, vote no for Desal. Thank you.
Hello, Gabriel, District 4, Gabriel Flores, District 4. I wasn't planning on making a comment today, but after listening to y'all just ask questions about desalination plant in general, I mean, I was able to answer those questions, and I've been to 2, maybe 3 city council meetings in the past year, and it just really doesn't give me any confidence that y'all have any idea of the true scope of all the consequences of how this is going to affect people in their communities, the ecosystem, the habitats that all these plants and animals live in. Yeah, so I mean, like, it's kind of scary and sad to see that y'all almost don't really know. I mean, not all of you, but definitely some of you are asking questions that are just like, even I know the answers to these, and I'm not an elected official that is supposed to represent the people of their community. So, yeah, it's just kind of disheartening and a little bit scary to see. Other than that, though, I mean, I'm against the desalinization plant. I think all it's doing is just continuing the status quo of, you know, sacrificing people, their homes, their houses, the areas that they live in, and the ecosystems that surround them for industrial and capital gain. I mean, I think that's all this is. Let's see what else I wanted to say. I wasn't exactly prepared. I just felt kind of moved, you know, seeing everything that was happening. But I mean, y'all are saying that we've already spent $40 or $50 million, and a shovel hasn't even hit the dirt yet. So you've already put so much money in. Why are you wanting to put even more in if we're not even sure that this is going to be the right choice? It obviously doesn't seem like it is. So I don't know what y'all are even trying to grasp for anymore. It doesn't seem like there's anything to grasp for. So yeah, I'll try and keep it short because there's a lot of people behind me. But yeah, I think that's really about all I had to say.
Hello. Thanks for having me. My name is Oliver Sanchez, Flower Bell, whatever district that may be. I haven't been here before. I'm not sure how this whole thing goes, but I have a couple things to say. First of all, we're all tired. I just got off a 10-hour shift, and I came here around 5. So I've been up for almost 19, 20 hours now, so let's get in there. That being said, you mentioned no one from Kiewit was here. I'm not saying quite a word for it, but by technicality, someone from Kiewit is here. The very bottom of the barrel, but I'm here. That being said, there's a lot of talk about industry, about industrialism and whatnot. And I'm probably the only person in this room covered in dirt, grime, and grease who's actually working out there, who's actually building the things that need to be built, who's actually benefiting, and at the same time not benefiting, suffering the consequences of whatever actions you guys take tonight. That being said, as much as I wish I could say yes to the desalination plan, which I'm not entirely against desalination, just not at this time. It doesn't seem to make sense within the time frames, just given the money, the finances of Scotty of it all. Mayor Fajardo, you said something on the lines of we've already invested $50 million of it into it. Best case scenario, the way, please just forgive my ignorance, I'm not too confident in what I'm doing. But you said we invested $50 million already. So best case scenario, we get to 60%, we carry on with it. So then we're, at the very least, from what I've heard, we're down $1.2 billion that we're going into desalination. That's the best case scenario. Worst case scenario, we're going to be down those $50 million on top of the 50, 100, 200 million that's going to take to get to that 60%. And then you get there, and if you decide against it, then now we're not only down 50 million, we could be down 100, 150, 200 million. That 50, 100, 200 could be better well spent into other alternative sources, which may or may not be viable, may or may not be fruitful. I am not aware of that, frankly. Furthermore, another major reason why I'm here is because very few people who are actually going to be predominantly affected by these jobs are able to be here. That being said, even if the plan doesn't go through, even if the worst case scenario that all these companies pull out of Corpus Christi, that they leave, people will find alternatives, people will find other jobs, people will carry on. Somebody mentioned something about all jobs are important. Yes, all jobs are important, but at the end of the day, they're just jobs, and people find other sources. The same way, I mean, I'm 19 years old, and I've been homeless several times. I've been jobless more times than I can count, and I figured it out. I'm still here today. I was able to be here. I was able to make the time, energy, and the effort to be here because people figure it out. And worst case scenario, if these companies do pull out, people will find a way because it's what they do, and it's what we should do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Robin Cox, District 3. And first I want to start off with giving kudos to David Lowe for having 399 properties and able to print his own signs to put in front of. So we all know where that came from, so those aren't really bragging rights. Second thing I want to say is nothing brings, I'm a hardcore conservative, and nothing brings Republicans and Democrats together than doing the right thing. I heard Mayor Fajardo say over and over, we've already pumped this much money into it. I'm a property owner. I'm a landlord. If I bought a sixplex and it was losing money, I wouldn't keep pumping money into it. I would cut my losses and go.
and we're putting a price tag on people, are we putting a price tag on the people that live in Hillcrest? That is pretty sad, and we're saying their lives don't matter. I don't see people vacationing in Port Arthur. We have people here that make their living off of tourists. So how many of you go, you know what, let's pack up the kids and get on out to Port Nature's? No, they don't. It stinks over there. They don't want to go there. So we've got plenty of industry, and I'm for industry. I've had friends who work there, but we've got enough. Let's face it, this water is for more industry to come. It's not for the people. We can find water for the people. And the bottom line too, looking at this, some of you are so deep into this location in Inner Harbor. If we connected the dots, there's some serious back scratching going on here. Some serious. I mean, look at where it all comes from. My dad used to always say, who do you got to sleep with in this town to get ahead? And it's really looking for him. But on the last note, like I said, I'm a hardcore conservative, but I'm the first one that's going to write Eric Cantu a check and start block walking for him. Because at the end of the day, I'm about doing the right thing. And thank you for the Fab Five who have stuck together. My neighbor coined y'all that. Y'all are doing the right thing, and don't let anybody else tell you. And thank you for these young kids that keep showing up. They've got some serious guts to keep showing up over and over. They're not at home on their Nintendos. They're here trying to do the right thing. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Rita Delio-Garza. I am originally from Kingsville. I have floated in and out of Corpus Christi for about 6 years now, and I currently live here in District 2, I believe. So I want to say thank you to all my friends as well who have really done a great job at addressing the cognitive dissonance in this room, which is the people of Hillcrest. And I come to you also as sort of a product of industry, or rather a beneficiary, as I am a refinery kid. And taking a walk with my friends down at Hillcrest kind of sparked something within me that I've only ever seen that area from the windows of a refinery office, where I would doodle and sort of, run around as a child, sort of, really annoying, not the point. I really want to ask, going back to obligations to these refineries, what are your obligations to the people who have been displaced, who have been severely affected by this industry? And I want to ask, why are their livelihoods more important than those from Hillcrest and those who are average working class citizens? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Jason Hill, Corpus Christi. Hi, council members. I think we should quit while we're ahead. I think there's better projects that our money could go towards, and I don't want us to waste that money on this project. I have a problem with the SWIFT loans. The whole point of the SWIFT loans is to help us get out of the water problem, not get us stuck on a project that is going to make it harder for you to get out of this water problem. I think the TCEQ failed us. I feel like the way they permitted this project, they didn't look at it close enough with enough attention. I feel like we need an independent review for this near field modeling. I have major concerns over it. If you read the coordinates manual, you can easily tell that this was obviously done wrong. The coordinates model assumes that the tides change twice a day, but it changes like 20 times a day, and it makes a huge difference. The far field model also needs independent review. They did thousands of hours of simulation time, and we only saw 2 slides worth of results, right? And Oasis Bay wasn't in there at all. And that's super important because we are mandated by law to send fresh water from our reservoirs to the Oasis Bay to keep the salinity low. But this project is going to increase the salinity to the Oasis Bay. Imagine spending, that's like the antithesis of that spirit of the law, violates it. We're going to spend $1.2 million on a plan that's going to increase the salinity to the Oasis Bay when we're mandated by law to send fresh water there to decrease the salinity. It just doesn't make sense. I do think we need desal at some point, and I think we need the city to work with the community on making that happen. For
You know, I'm going to really rely on the description that David Loeb gave a little bit before, a little bit earlier, because he can do it a lot better than I could. But he was right on in terms of what's at stake here and what the city has in terms of a permitted project that, despite a lot of the claims here this evening, was done in a rigorous process and on the discharge permit side, not just by DCEQ, but by the EPA. You know, it's been a science-based, fact-based approach, and this is the only project that we've got that is fully permitted and has financial support, has support at the state level, and it's time for desal. What are we waiting for? We should have been doing this in the past. Now's the time. Anyway, in the time that I've got left, I really want to correct a couple of things that can come up over and over again because they need to be corrected. First of all, taxpayers don't pay for the water system. Now this one was kind of cleared up as we progressed, but ratepayers pay for the water system. And all of the large volume users and other manufacturing and industry companies that operate in this area that take water from the Corpus Christi municipal water system are ratepayers. And they contribute to the water system now. They have been investing in it for decades in most cases, and they will continue to pay their appropriate share through the water rates developed by the water department. The second thing, so that's the first point. The second one is that the water's for industry. And maybe we got a good clarification point that it's for future industry. That may be. But I'll tell you, I had to listen to, everybody in this room knows it. It's an indisputable fact that all of this water is for industry. And I can tell you, the water comes out of the desal plant in the Inner Harbor, travels by pipeline to the Navigation Boulevard pump station, where it is inserted into the municipal water system. It goes to wherever customers get water that travels through the Navigation Boulevard pump station. The water supply benefits everybody. It strengthens our water supply into the future. It puts us on a sounder footing than we are today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Beatriz Alvarado, District 1. I recently just watched a video of this man just performing selling desal to council back in 2014 as an industrial desal project. And they funded an economic feasibility study that determined that this industrial project would be cheaper for the city to take on as a municipal project, which the done, right? I mean, there's loans and the ratepayers pay for it. And I just wanted to address that it's obviously a disproportionate amount of water that they're using compared to us. And therefore, our share is going to be a lot smaller in terms of contributing. I just wanted to dispute that allegation. I'm obviously here to urge you to vote to discontinue any and all funding for the Inner Harbor Desal plant, and to also do something about this. Gulf Coast Growth Ventures, aka Exxon Sabic, aka My Town Our Future. In 2022, they used 12.5 million gallons a day. In 2023, they used 12.9 million gallons a day. In 2024, they used 13.5. OxyChem, in 2022, they used 8.4. In 2023, they used 7.9. In 2024, they used 8.7. Steel Dynamics also went up. They went from 1.6 to 3.8 to 5 between 2022 and 2024. Cheniere as well. From 2022, they used 9.9. In 2024, now they're using, or in 2024, they used 1.2. Please stop giving them free rein on our natural resources and our very limited financial resources. Residents are using less and less water, and it's not making a difference, obviously, them curtail and make them subsidize our water rates so they don't shoot up. I think it was suggested earlier to do something similar with the pilot payments. We actually subsidize their rates for years, right? And we had to correct that, so due to them. Yes, please kill the Inner Harbor project, but also stop promising industry a non-curtailable source of water just so they can keep making money during times of drought for us. You continue to exempt industry from drought restrictions in exchange for a fee, and I saw this man also lobby council back then to do this. The drought exemption fee, and they're very proud of this, right? The stakeholder group that formed back in 2014 and has pushed desalination as far as it's come. The drought exemption fee has brought in about $30 million for desal since 2018. That's only 2.5% of the total cost of the Inner Harbor. We're talking about disproportionate amounts here. The word is out that seawater desal has always been for industry, so
Mayor, Council, my name is Deanna King. I'm with NAACP and I live in District 3. And the reason I'm here, or going to say this public comment, because on January 30th, 2024, NAACP submitted a resolution to this city council, and we worked with the state and national to come up with this resolution. And it's very long, so I'm just going to read
wisely and be for the people, not for industry. Thank you.
Good morning, Anita Castillo from the city of town. And after this, I have to drive back over that bridge, which
wants to wait since they're still arguing about the what? Bill.
Yeah, because there's been some discussion about going to number 2 or doing other, so this is saying that the project is done if you do not take the additional financing. So it's not just a contract question now, it's a project question. And I would prefer to see city council all act to get, majority saying the project is complete.
Look, the deadline is, this is too.
It's the 5th. Is that Friday?
This coming Friday.
Okay.
Because there's no desire on the council to try to move the second.
Right, because the council wants to end the project at this time and not proceed with the financing, then that's what this action is.
So, I did not want to go forward, but can we amend this right now to look at another option? As far as looking at the second bidder, or is it pretty much, we have to come back next week on that?
Yeah, that's what I
We
was,
should have put that in with the amendment.
right, because now staff has the direction on the contract.
But if we want to, if we vote,
Yeah, you can do a motion to reconsider. Yeah, and then you can amend the motion to add.
We're going to do a motion to reconsider item number 34, is that correct? So that means someone on the prevailing side needs to make a motion. And then it takes 2/3 vote of the council, so 6 people to agree, and then we can look at the item anew and make that amendment, if that's what's wanted. So it would be something like motion to terminate, or motion to not to authorize Kiewit, and
Yeah, so it would be, so the original motion that was made, motion to authorize the amendment. Actually, I would go with the motion to not authorize, and then the amendment to that would be to direct staff to negotiate the second.
okay. So if we can do this
Or with the
motion
other
to
ranked
reconsider,
terms is how it's.
if we can do the motion to reconsider and that passes, then we can propose the second alternative, if that's what's desired. Would you like to reconsider your votes on 34 to allow for that option? Someone on the prevailing side needs to make the motion, so. No, there's no interest. You want to reconsider it?
This is for 35.
Oh. Okay, so we're not reconsidering 34.
I'd like to go ahead and make a motion and to reconsider, with Kiewit being out,
34?
go with the second bidder. But it fails.
Does anyone second the motion to reconsider? It has to be somebody, well, that one doesn't need to be on the prevailing side, actually.
Right, so it has to be someone from the prevailing side.
No, he made it, but the second doesn't have to be.
Oh, the second?
No. Okay, so you're gonna start.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So we have a motion and a second for the motion to reconsider. You just want to do a voice vote?
Yeah.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no.
Okay, I'm gonna have to do hands. Can you raise your hands, please? So voting aye, raise your hand, please.
It's not going to the second bidder. What it's doing is you're going to not authorize the amendment with Kiewit and direct staff to negotiate with the other ranked firms.
and bring back a contract for this project with you know.
Okay. So for the motion to reconsider to allow for that option, okay, so who's in favor of reconsidering one more time? Because I don't know if everybody was clear. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, and the rest are not? Don't want to reconsider it? Okay. All right, so that fails.
Okay, so that failed. All right, so we're done with 34. Councilman Hernandez.
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion on item number 35. A motion to direct staff to ask for an extension from the Texas Water Development Board for the issuance and sale and delivery of the city utility system junior lien revenue improvement bonds not to exceed $210,045,000 with the intent to repurpose for other region and approved water supply projects. You need me to repeat that? Okay. Motion to direct staff to ask for an extension from the Texas Water Development Board, since we need to do it up by the 5th, right? For the issuance, sale, and delivery of the city utility system junior lien revenue improvement bonds not to exceed $210,045,000 with the intent to repurpose for other Region N approved water supply projects. So that's, we have other projects in Region N that are approved by the state in the Region N plan. It's being updated here shortly to be for the next fiscal year. So we want to ask to repurpose the money that was going to go to the Inner Harbor to those other projects like groundwater or those things. So we need to ask Texas Water Development Board for that extension and to repurpose for those projects.
Janet.
So, you know, this is the, related to the 500, right, the 535? Yeah, 535 million, that would have a financing agreement. So this is the first tranche, I believe, of that. And the exhibit, B to the financing agreement we have for the 535 million is for seawater desalination. And it's for this site, this project site. So,
motion to direct, do you want me to read it again? Or just explain what it is? Well, it says a motion to direct staff to ask for an extension from the Texas Water water supply projects. So, and Ms. Whitehead explains that that may not happen, but it's just, we just want to ask. That's it. If the council wishes that, we'll make that request of the water development. Okay. Do you want to put that up? Or if you give me a minute. Okay. All right, it'll be on your screens. It's a summary of that. Oh, Mayor, and we also need public comment. For 35.
Can I speak for you all? Speaking for everybody here. Call the question, vote. Thank you.
James Perkins, District 2. I was told I could come back up again. Yeah, so the vote yes on the proposed to figure something else out to do with this money, because y'all took the loan out anyways, and it has to go somewhere anyways. We're already going to be paying for it anyways, so if we're not doing this plan like we shouldn't be doing, then find something to do with this money, because if the water board really are the governor's dogs, then we're screwed either way we go, you know? We're damned if we do, we're damned if we don't, and so try to find something to do with this, because we're still on the hook, you know, and I'm against the desalination plan, we aren't going to go over that again, but find something to do with these couple $1 million that we borrowed. Thank you.
Choosing her not as district view, this is definitely a first for me. This is the next thing. But just wanting to confirm that it's not taking out the septic loan. So it's taking out the septic loan. And so the way I understand it is the way it would is repurposing the loan that we already have.
Asking to extend and repurpose. Well, the second tranche.
So the money that we already have, that we have to spend, that we've already, we'll pay that. So we're asking for more than we have to spend to pay back, and incur more debt. What I'm saying. Things with the
County District 4. I think this is an embarrassment that y'all already don't even know the answer to this question. I think the city attorney made it very clear. This money was allocated to a certain GPS deployment, cannot be used for other purposes. Am I correct? Y'all can't use this money for anything. Thank you. This reopening the public comment at this point after we call it closed is inappropriate, and I think you're trying to monkey with the time, thinking someone might have a revelation from the Lord to change their votes. This is inappropriate. It's inappropriate.
Rachel Papagino, D1. In July of 2022, the Texas Water Board Development Board approved a change in plans for the city of Springtown, and allowing them to change the scope of work. This is a very big possibility, and I'll give you the verbiage right now. It was on July 7, 2022, City of Springtown, change of project scope, recommendation to allow for the city to implement the project, blah, 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 as amended to change the project scope to include improvements to the SWTP. So we have to quit lying. That's what needs to happen. There is a possibility staff needs to do their job, and we need to get this done.
Okay, I'm gonna close public comment now. So that takes care of today's agenda, let's call the water update.
What the? Get a vote on that. Yeah, 35, get a vote on it.
Still on the screen. I think she has to do something.
Yeah, Rebecca, did you put the electronic question on? 35, did they get a vote on 35? Yeah, you're ready. Oh, there we go.
Motion carries. Councilman Hernandez.
I just want to clarify something here. On the actual second charge that we're talking about, he brought up that we need one. And there are some projects that are less expensive. So if we borrow 200 million instead of 1.2 billion, the 200 doesn't affect your budget as the 1.2 billion. So I want to make sure that we're looking at it from the perspective of what we can afford, but we still need to go out and get one. It's going to cost us money, but we still need to go out and get one.
Okay.
So I want to make sure we get the tools and the funding available for us to go out and spread loans, that's what we do, because it's the low interest loans. So I want to, we're not going after 1.2 billion, we're going after a smaller. Okay, thank you.
Okay, there being no further business, this meeting is adjourned.
Wendy's time.
Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. Yeah. Okay, thank you. So we can just shoot a stand up for custody. Yeah. Yeah, we can.